It's Dread. It's actually Dread. This year. Oh, this could be my only Switch purchase in 2021.
Metroid Prime Trilogy was the last Metro game that I picked up in launch week. That was because I'd really adored the original Metroid Prime games. I'd had a GameCube, I absolutely loved Metroid Prime, I absolutely loved Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. It was a darker, weirder game that I never actually finished the first time round. But when it came out on the trilogy, upgraded and enhanced with the motion controls that Metroid Prime 3 had, I knew that I had to give it a second chance. And the second time through, I understood it, I got it, I completed the game. Metroid Prime 3 I hadn't originally bought when it came out. I'd skipped it, I didn't buy a Wii on the launch year, I actually waited a little time. I went and played it at a friend, I fell in love with Wii Tennis, Wii Sports actually, and it was just a really special experience, but I had other stuff going in my life. I picked up a Wii and I cherished it a few years later. Had some fantastic games on there amongst all of the other waggleware. But the Metroid Prime Trilogy was an opportunity to replay the first game, which is one of my favourite games of all time, to actually properly experience and enhance the second one, and to catch up on what I'd missed out on the third. And when I finally got to the third, I wouldn't say that I'd lost its specialty, but the innovation of the motion controls, well, I'd already experienced that with the first and the second game upgraded. So the innovation, the big step up just wasn't there for me playing it in the trilogy. I didn't pick up Other M when it released on launch, because although I'd seen the trailer for it and realised just how exciting it looked, I also wasn't in a position to play it at launch weekend, and by the time I was in a position to pick it up, I'd seen the reviews, I knew that it was going to be a very problematic title. It isn't just the story, it isn't just the combat, there's a whole host of things that went wrong in Other M that really, with just another few months of playtesting, could have been ironed out. I never bought a 3DS, and the way the Metroid franchise was mismanaged over the period following Other M has really been a sore and sad state of affairs for any Nintendo fan who cares at all about the franchise. But here we are, it's 2021, I am driving into Leeds city centre, and I'm on my way to pick up on the launch weekend a copy of the long delayed title, Metroid Dread. I waited for so many years, and just the other side of that door, it'll be in my hands in less than 5 minutes. So here we are, no script, no spoilers. I'm going to talk about generics of the game, but nothing plot heavy details. The footage I'm going to play in the background is from a couple of hours in, but there's going to be no spoiler heavy sections. It's just generic me playing around 2 or 3 hours into the gameplay going on in the background. So with that in mind, I've played a decent amount of Metroid Dread. I've not finished it so far. This is a reaction video. This is upfront uptake, my genuine first thoughts. I'm playing on what appears to be at least, feels like 60-70% of the game. So first and foremost, it's Metroid, and it lives up to that pedigree. This is the sequel we've been waiting for. It's what Other M should have been all of those years ago, and that means something. But it means something for me, but it doesn't mean something to everyone. I was looking around on YouTube. I deliberately took an internet break. No spoilers until I'd played a decent amount of the game. And then I started, after I'd already had an impression myself, went onto YouTube, saw what some other people thought, some great video feedback out there, and seen that the community generally seems to be quite impressed. And there was a YouTuber called Arlo, he's a blue puppet who does these fantastic... If you're a Nintendo fan, this guy's a good guy to follow. His hot takes are not that hot, but they're good quality takes. Arlo, you're probably never going to listen to this, but if you ever do, I love your channel. But Arlo's video reviewing, well, not reviewing, his first reactions to Metroid Dread, there was someone in the comments section going, oh wow, this game looks cool. It looks a bit like Hollow Knight. And immediately you can just read the comment after the comment to the comment, the response to this guy going, duh, it's a Metroidvania. Of course it's like Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight's a Metroidvania. This is Metroid. What did you expect? But you have to remember, there's whole generations of people who have grown up without a Metroid game. There's a lot of people who didn't think Nintendo could ever pull this off. The genre's moved on. Metroid and Castlevania, what they did in the 1990s was great for the 1990s, but we're 20 years on from that. And a lot of people are saying, you know, okay, those were the starters, but should we even be calling it Metroidvania anymore? Well, this is Nintendo making their fair stab say Metroid is still the king of the pile. For me, this is easily the best Metroidvania I've touched since Hollow Knight. It's just really fun and easy to play, quick to get into. They lean into the physical amnesia. Every game Samus Aran comes along and she's lost all of her abilities from the previous games. Straight off the bat they hang a lantern on it and say, yep, we're doing this. But then they do it really well. I like the slide dash you start with at the beginning of the game. That does give you some flexibility, some momentum. Samus has got some real speed on her. This is a fast game, but it does not demand you play it at 1,000 miles per hour. It wants you to play it confidently. It sets up very, very early on, very quickly, that you are not actually completely powerless against these enemies. It shows you that there is a way to take them down. The first one you encounter, boom, you're in there. Here's your way forwards. But that's a trick you're not going to be able to repeat many times. You've got to be in a very specific location with very specific moveset, very specific situation to take these creatures on. You're normally not going to be there. So the enemies, the new thing to the franchise for this game, the stalker enemy concept brought to its apex predator form, yeah, you run. But you don't run blindly, you don't run madly. If you give in to panic, you're dead. This is my favourite version. I've spoke when I talked about Metroid Fusion about how it evolved the stalker concept, and I showed footage from the Resident Evil games, but I've got to be honest, very few of the Resident Evil stalker enemies, some of them do, but very few of them I feel are done perfectly right. Just to go to the most recent entry in 2021, Lady Dimitrescu and her daughters in the castle. The castle was a great get area in concept, but I found far too easily there's no point fighting her because you can't actually kill her, so I never even bothered wasting ammo. If she was going to hurt me, then I would just exist at minimum health, let her tank one hit and regenerate back up to minimum health. You can take one hit, and what you can do is just peg it to the Duke's room, because if you get to that one safe room, she'll just stand outside the doorway. You can even stand in the doorway watching her, and she'll pace around and then walk away, giving you plenty of time to re-enter the castle and sneak around behind her. Stalker enemies can either be incredibly too easy or they can be incredibly too difficult and unforgiving, but the enemies are perfect. This is fantastic. This is just, they don't automatically home in your location. They will randomly rove around where you might be, but the chances of you encountering them in these set areas, and okay, I just complained about you can hide in the Duke's room, but it always seemed to me tonally there was no conceptual good reason why she wouldn't enter that one room. Why are the safe rooms sacred? Now again, not every Resident Evil game, not every horror game, but the enemies have a set defined area. They're robots, they patrol that area. They emit these quirky subsonic screeching noises, these burbles and whistles. It's actually really unnerving. If you move while they're within a radius, they will chase you. If you don't move, they have a good more than 50% chance likelihood of coming across you anyway. So you'd better move, and as you move, they'll home in on you. They don't actually actively start hunting you until they see a line of sight, but they will follow the noise. Once they have a line of sight, you're actually going to really struggle, because if they can see you, they close the doors and you can't even leave the area. You run. But you don't ever give in to mindlessness. This game wants you to have a good idea of the layout. You've got to have a purpose in where you're going. If you just panic, you'll find yourself in a dead end. Okay, it's not 100% chance of death if they corner you, but it's more than 90%. More than 95%, I'd say. Actually evading these creatures when they catch you is
really difficult. It's intimidating. The level of difficulty is up there, but it's not unfair. This isn't horrible difficulty spikes that you can't overcome. There's nothing here that you couldn't figure out with if you accept death. And this game, it doesn't mind you dying. It soft saves whenever you enter or leave the enemy's patrol zones. It soft saves whenever you enter or leave a boss room. If you haven't saved and you die, you're not going to be put back and lose half an hour of progress. It's everything the old Metro game should have been. You still have to overcome the challenge. You still have to solve the puzzle. You still have to navigate your way through this labyrinth and overcome the enemies. But you're not going to be penalised unfairly. Because the challenge level, it's high. But you will do it. You'll overcome it. And you'll do it pretty much alone. I was a bit nervous. I didn't look at the trailers, but I heard there were trailers that were showing the lore and the story. And Metroid treads a very fine line here. The first 3 games in the franchise were almost bereft of plot. I say almost, there was a plot. And there was a cutscene at the beginning, and there was a cutscene at the end. But in the middle, you were just Samus, a bounty hunter, alone on an enemy planet. Everything you saw wanted to kill you, so therefore you kill it first. That's all there was. The storytelling was in the ambience, it was in the progression, it was in what you did to work your way forwards. It was in the way the final boss played out. But once they hit Metroid Fusion, we started getting cutscenes, we started getting dialogue. Not everyone hates it, but it definitely was a shift to the franchise that Fusion began this very mission orientated. Go here, then come back to base. Now go there and do this, then come back to base. And ultimately what you were doing in Metroid 4 was about the same, but it felt different. I'm really happy that they found a safe middle ground here. There is Adam, there is still a computer. It's a confidant, but it can't reach you anywhere. It can only reach you at certain rooms, and it can't really help you. It's not really giving you a mission. If anything, Adam's dialogue is really there to reinforce how helpless you are. It's kind of just a quick status update. You're here. You're screwed. Better get on and get out of there, because the Emmys are going to come for you, and there's nothing you can do to stop them. This is a fantastically well-designed game, and ultra minor no spoil. I'm not going to spoil exactly what happens, but in Other M they had Samus with a voice actor and dialogue and everything. Here they found a really clever way of threading that needle, of saying, okay, we want to respect that we have created Samus as a character, but also we want to respect the ambience and the atmosphere and everything that they had going on in the original games. This really does feel like a love letter to the franchise that originally was, not some reimagining of it, which is great. It's a exploration. The combat feels fantastic. It's really responsive. The music. Okay, I don't have a negative thing to say about the music, but I think a lot of people will. Did you like the music in Breath of the Wild? I adored Zelda music. I adore all of the melodies that Koji Kondo has composed over the years. But Breath of the Wild for me was an odd one, because whilst it sounded brilliant, there were very few tunes I could latch onto. Probably the one riding the horse is about the best. Metroid Dread feels like that. It sounds brilliant, but there are no tunes I can hum. I'm never going to go back out and reproduce this in my head even. It's just perfectly suited for the moment. It evokes the atmosphere, it evokes the dread, but it doesn't stick with you. And if that's a problem, it's going to depend on your taste, but it sounds good in the moment. It evokes the tension. Not body horror, not absolute gore, but real heart pounding, and that's, I think, the core of the Emmys. They're coming for you, but they're not horrible monsters. They're cold, calculating, efficient robots, and the only way you can overcome them is to outthink them. It's got to be quick, but don't rush, because if you rush, you're dead. This is a fantastic game. I really recommend Metroid Dread for anyone. It's gonna give you a level of challenge. If your reflexes aren't what they could be, that challenge will be slightly higher, but don't feel that your lack of reflexes are what's going to pull you down. They're not going to pull you down. What you need to overcome this challenge is a clear head and goal driven on the task. The ability to not be put down by minor setbacks. You can overcome this challenge. You die, you pick yourself up, you try again, you learn from your mistakes, you do things better. This is everything I wanted in the next Metroid game. And it's a shame we never got Metroid Prime 4. I hope it's still coming. But Dread shows that there's still life in a 2D platformer, even here in 2021.